I walked into the dining room with my arm in a cast. Everyone stared at me. My son David sat at the head of the table with that smile I used to love but now made my skin crawl. His wife Monica was arranging plates like she owned the place. Before we proceed, thank you for watching Granny's narrative. Please subscribe and tells us where you are watching from in the comment. What happened to your arm, Mom? David asked. But I could see he already knew. I could see it in the way Monica smirked into her wine glass. You will find out soon enough, I said quietly. David laughed. That loud salesman laugh he used when he was trying to convince someone of something. She had a little accident yesterday. Monica had to teach her some manners. You know how stubborn old people can get. The doorbell rang. I had been waiting for that sound. I pulled out my phone and pressed record. Then I walked to the door and opened it wide. Good evening, officers. Please come in. Let me tell you how I got here. Because this story does not start with my broken arm or with police at my Christmas dinner. This story starts 2 years ago when my husband Richard died and left me alone with a son who saw me as a wallet with legs. I am 65 years old. Richard and I were married for 40 years. We were both nurses at the county hospital. We saved lives together. We built a life together. We bought this house together 38 years ago and paid off every single dollar of the mortgage. When Richard died of a stroke, I thought my world had ended. We had plans. We were going to travel. We were going to visit Italy and Greece. We were going to finally relax after 40 years of hard work. Instead, I got a funeral and a son who suddenly wanted to spend more time with me. David is 36 years old. He sells insurance and he is good at it because he can make you believe anything. His wife Monica is 33. She has never worked a day in her life and she likes it that way. They live in a house they cannot afford and drive cars that cost more than most people make in a year. 2 weeks after we buried Richard, David showed up at my door with coffee and croissants. Mom, we need to talk about your situation. My situation. I was washing dishes. I had been washing dishes for 2 hours because it kept my hands busy and my mind quiet. You cannot live alone in this big house. What if something happens? What if you fall? What if you have a medical emergency and nobody is here to help? I have been taking care of myself for 65 years, David. I think I can manage. But he kept coming back. Every few days he would show up with a new worry. What if I forgot to turn off the stove? What if I slipped in the shower? What if I got confused and took the wrong medication? Monica started coming too. She would walk through my house like she was measuring it for new furniture. She would comment on things that needed fixing. The leaky faucet. The loose tile in the bathroom. The crack in the ceiling. This house is too much for you, Mom, she would say. You need something smaller. Something easier to manage. Then David brought up selling. Property values are really high right now, Mom. You could make good money. You could move somewhere nice and small. Maybe a condo or an apartment. And where would I go? He looked at Monica. They did that thing married people do where they have a whole conversation with their eyes. We have that spare bedroom upstairs. You could stay with us. Just until you find the perfect place. That was when I knew. This was not about my safety. This was not about my health. This was about my house and my money and their bills. I told him I would think about it. That night I sat in Richard's chair. I could still smell his cologne on the fabric, even though he had been gone for months. I looked around our living room. Every piece of furniture held a memory. The bookshelf where we kept David's baby pictures. The coffee table Richard built with his own hands. The spot by the window where we used to watch the sunset together. I should have said no right then. I should have told David to leave me alone and let me grieve in peace. But I was tired. I was sad. I was lonely. And maybe a small part of me thought that David really did care about me. So when he called the next day, I said yes. I moved in with David and Monica on a Thursday in September. They helped me pack what they called essentials. Clothes, medication, few photos. Everything else stayed in my house until we figured out what to do with it. The spare bedroom was actually Monica's craft room that she had cleared out in a hurry. Her sewing machine was pushed into the corner and covered with a sheet. Her fabric bins filled the closet. The walls were painted a bright pink that gave me headaches. I know it is not much, Monica said. But it is temporary, right? Temporary. I hung up my clothes in the tiny closet and tried not to cry. The first week was fine. Monica cooked nice meals. David asked about my day. They introduced me to their friends as David's mom, who is staying with us for a while. But by the second week, things changed. Little things first. Monica would sigh when she had to move her craft supplies. David would mute the TV when I came into the room. They had whispered conversations that stopped when I walked in. Then came the rules. Mom, David said one morning. Monica and I talked and we think you should use the downstairs bathroom. The main bathroom is small and we need it during the morning when we are getting ready for work. The downstairs bathroom was a closet under the stairs with a toilet that ran all night and no window. Said okay. Then I could not watch TV in the living room during prime time. That was their relaxation time after work. I could watch TV in my room if I kept the volume low. Said okay. Then I could not cook in the kitchen except during certain hours. Monica had a system and I was messing it up. I said okay to that too. Every rule made sense when David explained it in his calm insurance voice. Every rule made me smaller. Every rule reminded me that this was not my home. But I smiled and nodded and thanked them for being so understanding. Because I was learning something. I was learning that my son and his wife were not just selfish. They were cruel. And I needed to know exactly how cruel before I did anything about it. The touching started small. A hand on my shoulder that pressed too hard. David grabbing my elbow when I walked too slow. Monica pushing past me in the hallway with more force than necessary. Little accidents that left bruises. I started paying attention to what they said when they thought I was asleep. Our bedroom walls were thin. I could hear everything. She is not even that old, Monica complained one night. My grandmother is 89 and lives alone. Your mom is just helpless because your dad babied her. Give it time, David said. She will get more dependent. Then we can talk about power of attorney. For her own protection, of course. I lay in that pink bedroom listening to them plan my future, and I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger. Anger was too hot. This was calculating. I went to the electronics store the next day. A young man with tattoos helped me pick out a digital recorder that looked like a pen. A tiny camera that could hide in a button. Software that backed everything up to the cloud. Doing some detective work. Yes. Something like that, I said. That night I tested everything. The recorder picked up voices from across the hall. The camera was invisible on my cardigan. Everything worked perfectly. I was ready to document exactly who my son had become. Over the next 2 months I recorded 52 hours of conversations. David and Monica talked about me like I was a problem to solve. How to get me to sign papers. How to isolate me from my friends. How to make me think I was too confused to live alone. But talking was not enough. I needed proof of physical abuse. I needed something that could not be explained away. That happened the week before Christmas. I was making tea when Monica came home in a bad mood. She had been at the nail salon for 3 hours, but something had upset her. Why are there dishes in the sink? She demanded. It was 1 teacup. I was about to wash it, I said. Do not bother. You cannot do anything right. You leave messes everywhere. You use all the hot water. You make noise at all hours. I am sick of this. My recorder was running. It ran every day now. But I could see this was different. Monica was working herself up to something. Brittany, I started. Do not. She grabbed my arm above the elbow and squeezed. Hard enough that I gasped. Hard enough that her nails dug into my skin through my sweater. You are hurting me, I said clearly. Am I? She squeezed harder. 'Cause it looks like you are just being dramatic. Who is going to believe you over us? Who is going to take your side? I tried to pull away, but her grip was like iron. I could feel something in my arm give way. The pain was instant and electric. Please let go. She shoved me backwards. I hit the counter and fell. My arm twisted under me when I landed, and I heard another pop. Louder this time. Monica stared down at me. For a second I saw fear in her eyes. Then she yelled for David. Your mom fell. She is hurt. David came running. He looked at me on the floor. Looked at Monica. Looked at my arm that was already swelling. What happened? She got angry because I asked her to clean up after herself, Monica said smoothly. She tried to storm off and tripped over her own feet. You know how unstable she has been lately. I looked up at my son. This man I had carried for 9 months. This child I had raised and loved and sacrificed for. I waited for him to see through Monica's lie. I waited for him to help me. Instead he said, Mom, we have talked about your balance issues. This is exactly why you need more help. They took me to the hospital. The doctor said my arm was broken in 2 places. He asked how it happened. I said I fell. Monica and David nodded and looked concerned and played their parts perfectly. But when the doctor stepped out to get my discharge papers, David leaned close. If you say anything different, if you try to tell anyone that Monica hurt you, we will have you declared incompetent. We will say you are having delusions. We will put you somewhere you cannot cause any more problems. Monica smiled. We have been documenting your confusion, Margaret. All those times you forgot things. All those conversations where you repeated yourself. We have notes. We have witnesses. We have everything we need. They had it all planned. If I exposed them, they would destroy my credibility. If I stayed quiet, they would keep hurting me until I signed over everything or died trying. But what they did not know was that I had been planning too. When we got back to their house, I went to my pink bedroom and sent a text message. For words to a number I had programmed weeks ago. Emergency plan active now. Dr. Sarah Chan received my text while eating dinner with her husband. She had been my doctor for 6 years. She knew me. She knew I was not dramatic or confused. 6 weeks earlier I had told her I was worried about abuse. I asked her to be a witness if I ever needed to prove I was mentally competent. We set up a protocol. If I sent those exact words, she would call the police and come to the address immediately. She called 911 and said she was worried about an elderly patient being abused by family members. Then she drove to David and Monica's house. At the same time, a second message went to Marcus Torres, the lawyer I had hired 5 weeks ago. He received a message that triggered him to send 52 audio files, 47 photographs, and a detailed report to the police department, Adult Protective Services, and the district attorney. But David and Monica did not know any of this. They were busy planning Christmas dinner, planning how to explain my broken arm to the family, planning how to keep controlling me. That is why when the doorbell rang on Christmas evening and I opened it to find 2 police officers standing there, David's face went white. Good evening, officers, I said. Please come in. This is Officer Martinez. We received a call about a welfare check on an elderly resident at this address. David's salesman voice kicked in automatically. Officers, there must be some mistake. My mother lives with us, but there is no problem here. We need to speak with her privately, please. Now wait a minute. This is my house. Sir, this is a welfare check on a vulnerable adult. We need to speak with her alone. Please wait in the living room. After they left, Officer Martinez pulled out a recorder. Mrs. Thompson, I need to ask you some questions about your injuries. Can you tell me what happened to your arm? Took a breath. Then I told the truth. My daughter-in-law grabbed me and shoved me during an argument 2 days ago. My son threatened me when I wanted to report it. They have been physically and emotionally abusing me for months while planning to steal my assets. And I have been recording all of it. Officer Martinez looked at her partner, then back at me. You have recordings. 52 hours of them. My lawyer has copies of everything. I also have medical documentation from my doctor who has been helping me prepare for this moment. 20 minutes later I was in an ambulance. A paramedic named James was photographing my injuries and asking gentle questions. Through the open doors I could see David and Monica being questioned separately. Monica was crying. David was sweating through his shirt even though it was winter. Dr. Chan arrived and confirmed to the officers that I was mentally competent. That I had been planning this for weeks. That everything I said was true. Where are these recordings now? Officer Martinez asked. My lawyer has them. His name is Marcus Torres. They called Marcus. He sent over the files. The officers listened to a few of them right there in the driveway. I could see their faces change as they heard David and Monica discussing how to manipulate me, control me, steal from me. "Ma'am," Officer Martinez said quietly, "this is one of the most well-documented abuse cases I have ever seen. You did everything right." I did not feel like I had done everything right. I felt tired and scared and sad. But I also felt something I had not felt in months. They arrested David and Monica that night. Elder abuse, assault, conspiracy to commit fraud. They were handcuffed and put in separate police cars while the neighbors watched from their porches. Mrs. Peterson from next door came over in her bathrobe. "Margaret, are you okay? I saw everything. I had no idea that boy was hurting you." "I'm okay now," I said. "The hospital kept me overnight for observation. Dr. Chin stayed with me. Marcus came by with legal papers. A restraining order. Documentation for the criminal case. Papers that would protect my house and my assets." "What happens now?" asked Marcus. "Now they face the justice system. And you go home. To your real home." The next morning Marcus drove me back to my house. The house Richard and I had bought 38 years ago. The house I should never have left. It looked the same. Little dusty. The garden needed work. But it was mine. Marcus had arranged for a locksmith to change all the locks. While that was happening, he went through the house to make sure nothing had been disturbed. "They never came here," he said. "I think they were waiting for you to sign power of attorney before they started moving your assets. They were planning for the long game. But they underestimated you." That afternoon I walked through my house alone. Everything was exactly as I had left it 3 months ago. Richard's book on the nightstand. His reading glasses on the coffee table. His favorite mug in the cabinet. I had been afraid to touch anything when I moved out. Like changing things would make his death more real. Now I realized that keeping everything frozen had not preserved his memory. It had kept me trapped in grief. I spent the rest of the day cleaning and rearranging. I put Richard's things away carefully, but I also made space for myself. I moved furniture. I hung new pictures. I made the house feel like home again instead of a museum. That evening Mrs. Peterson called. "Margaret, I am so glad you are home safe. I was so worried when I saw the police. Is there anything I can do to help?" Mrs. Peterson had been our neighbor for 18 years. She knew me. She knew Richard. She was real in a way that David and Monica had never been. "Thank you," I said. "Just knowing you are next door is help enough. But honey, I want you to know that I am proud of you. A lot of women your age would have just accepted the abuse. You fought back. You protected yourself. That takes courage." The next day Marcus called with an update. "David and Monica's lawyers want to negotiate a plea deal. Your evidence is overwhelming. They know they cannot win at trial." "What kind of deal?" "David is looking at 18 months in prison plus probation. Monica is looking at 12 months plus probation. They will also pay restitution for your medical expenses." "When will this be final?" "Probably within 2 weeks. Their lawyers want this resolved quickly." After we hung up, I sat in Richard's chair and thought about everything that had happened. 3 months ago I had been a victim being controlled by my own son. Today I was free. But I did not feel victorious. Felt sad. Because no matter how this ended, I had lost my son. The little boy who used to bring me flowers from the garden. The teenager who called me from college just to hear my voice. The adult I thought would take care of me someday. That person either never existed or died somewhere along the way. 2 weeks later I sat in a courtroom and watched David and Monica enter guilty pleas. David pleaded guilty to elder abuse and assault. Monica pleaded guilty to elder abuse and assault. The judge accepted their pleas and sentenced them according to the negotiated deal. 18 months for David. 12 months for Monica. Probation after release. Restraining orders that would keep them away from me for years. As I walked out of the courthouse, Detective Morrison stopped me. "Mrs. Thompson, I want you to know that you probably saved other people by coming forward. Abusers like your son and daughter-in-law do not stop with one victim. By documenting everything and pressing charges, you may have prevented them from hurting someone else. I had not thought about it that way. That evening I made myself dinner in my own kitchen. I ate at my own table. I watched TV in my own living room. I slept in my own bed. Everything was exactly as it should be. A week later I did something I had been thinking about since the trial ended. I called a travel agency. I want to take a trip, I told the agent. Somewhere warm. Somewhere I can relax. How does Italy sound? We have a lovely 2-week tour that includes Rome, Florence, and Venice. That sounds perfect, I said. Richard and I always wanted to see Italy. When I hung up, I felt something shift inside me. For months I had been in survival mode. Planning, documenting, protecting myself. Now I could finally start living again. I called my sister Linda in Arizona. Linda was 3 years younger than me and had always been the adventurous one. Margaret, I have been so worried about you. How are you doing? I told her everything. The abuse, the recordings, the arrest, the trial. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I am so proud of you. You handled this like a warrior. You protected yourself and you got justice. I'm going to Italy next month, I said. Richard would love that. Take pictures for both of you. The weeks before my trip were peaceful. I worked in the garden. I read books I had been meaning to read for years. I had coffee with Mrs. Peterson and told her about my plans. I also started volunteering at a local women's shelter. I figured my experience might help someone else who was in an abusive situation. The director of the shelter was a woman named Carmen. She had kind eyes and a calm way of speaking that made people feel safe. Margaret, your story is powerful, she said. Would you be willing to share it with some of our residents? Some of them are dealing with family abuse and they might benefit from hearing how you escaped. Thought about it. The idea of talking about David and Monica made my stomach hurt. But if it helped even one person, it would be worth it. I agreed. The next week I stood in front of 12 women and told them my story. I told them about the manipulation, the isolation, the escalating violence. I told them how I documented everything and made a safety plan. When I finished, a woman named Rose raised her hand. How did you stay so calm? How did you plan all of this while you were living with people who were hurting you? I was a nurse for 40 years, I said. I learned how to stay calm in emergencies. I learned how to think clearly when everything was falling apart. And I learned that sometimes you have to pretend to be weak so that your abuser underestimates you. After the meeting, 3 women came up to me privately. They each told me their stories. They each asked for advice. I gave them Marcus's phone number. I gave them Dr. Chen's name. I told them about recording devices and safety plans and the importance of having witnesses who could verify their mental competency. 2 months later, one of those women escaped her abusive situation. She sent me a card that said thank you for showing me that survival is possible. I put that card on my refrigerator. When I left for Italy, I felt lighter than I had in years. The weight of grief and fear and anger had slowly lifted. I was not the same woman who had moved in with David and Monica 6 months ago. That woman had been broken down by loss and manipulation. This woman was strong. This woman knew her worth. This woman would never let anyone make her feel small again. Italy was everything Richard and I had dreamed it would be. I walked through ruins in Rome. I stood in front of paintings in Florence that made me cry. I rode a gondola in Venice and ate pasta that tasted like heaven. I took hundreds of pictures. Some of them I sent to Linda. Some of them I kept for myself. But all of them reminded me that life was still full of beauty and possibility. On my last night in Venice, I sat at a cafe by the water and watched the sun set over the canals. I thought about Richard and how much he would have loved this. I thought about David and how he had thrown away our relationship for money he never even got. Mostly I thought about myself and how far I had come. When I got home, Mrs. Peterson picked me up at the airport. You look wonderful, she said. Tan and happy. I feel wonderful, I said. As we drove through familiar streets, Mrs. Peterson told me about the neighborhood. The Johnsons were getting divorced. The Millers had a new grandchild. The house 2 streets over had sold to a young couple with a baby. And your son made the news again, she said carefully. There was an article about the trial. About how you were smart enough to record everything. You are quite famous around here now. I looked out the window at the streets I had known for 38 years. This was home. Not because of the house or the neighborhood, but because it was mine. Because I had chosen to be here. That night I unpacked my suitcase and put my souvenirs on the shelf. I hung a painting I had bought in Florence on the wall. I made my house feel like home in a way it had not since Richard died. Then I sat down and wrote a letter. Not to David. He did not deserve my words. But to myself. Dear Margaret, I wrote. You survived something terrible. You were hurt by someone you loved and trusted. You were made to feel small and worthless and afraid. But you fought back. You documented the abuse. You made a plan. You protected yourself. You got justice. And now you are free. Do not waste this freedom. Do not spend the rest of your life being angry or afraid. Live fully. Travel. Make friends. Help others. Be the woman Richard would be proud of. You are stronger than you ever knew. And you deserve every good thing that comes to you from this day forward. I folded the letter and put it in my nightstand drawer. Then I went to sleep in my own bed in my own house, feeling safer than I had in months. 6 months after that Christmas dinner, when I walked in with a broken arm and a plan, I was thriving. I had traveled to Italy. I was volunteering at the shelter. I had reconnected with old friends. David and Monica were in prison. They would be there for over a year. When they got out, they would be on probation. They would have criminal records. They would never be able to hurt me again. Sometimes I thought about the little boy David used to be. The child who hugged me goodnight and told me he loved me. I mourned that child. But I did not mourn the man he had become. That man had made his choices. He had chosen greed over love. He had chosen cruelty over kindness. He had paid the price for those choices. As for me, I chose joy. Chose freedom. I chose to believe that my life was not over just because I was 65 and widowed and had been betrayed by my own son. I chose to believe that the best was still ahead of me. And you know what? I was right. 1 year after I left David and Monica's house, I was sitting on my front porch drinking coffee when a car pulled into my driveway. A woman got out. She was maybe 40 years old with nervous eyes and tension in her shoulders. Are you Margaret Thompson? She asked. My name is Rachel. I saw your interview on the news last year. The one about elder abuse. I need help. Come inside, I said. Tell me everything. Rachel's story was similar to mine. Her mother-in-law had moved in with her and her husband 6 months ago. First everything was fine. But slowly the older woman had started taking control. Making rules. Criticizing everything Rachel did. Now Rachel was afraid in her own home. She was walking on eggshells. She was being told she was too sensitive, too dramatic, too difficult. Your story made me realize that this is abuse, Rachel said. I thought I was going crazy. But hearing what you went through, I recognized the same patterns. I gave her Marcus's number. I gave her the name of a therapist who specialized in family conflict. I told her about documentation and safety plans and the importance of trusting her instincts. 3 months later, Rachel called me. Her mother-in-law had moved out. Rachel and her husband were in therapy. Their marriage was getting stronger. Thank you, she said. You saved me from years of misery. After we hung up, I realized something. My experience with David and Monica had been terrible. It had broken my heart and my arm and my trust. But it had also taught me something valuable. It had taught me that I was stronger than I knew. It had taught me that survival was possible. It had taught me that pain could be transformed into purpose. I could use what I had learned to help other people. I could turn my trauma into something meaningful. That became my mission. Over the next year, I spoke at shelters and community centers. I shared my story with anyone who would listen. I helped dozens of women recognize abuse and make safety plans. Some of them escaped. Some of them did not. But all of them knew they were not alone. 2 years after the Christmas dinner that changed everything, I was invited to speak at a conference on elder abuse. There were hundreds of people in the audience. Social workers, lawyers, healthcare providers, police officers. I told them my story. I told them about the manipulation and the violence and the recordings that saved my life. When I finished, the room was silent. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping. They gave me a standing ovation. Afterward, a young social worker came up to me with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said. "I have been working with an elderly client who I think is being abused by her daughter. Your story gave me ideas about how to help her. That is why I do this," I said. "So that other people do not have to suffer the way I did." That evening I flew home. Mrs. Peterson picked me up at the airport like always. "How was the conference?" she asked. "It was good. I think I helped some people." "Of course you did. You always do." As we pulled into my driveway, I looked at my house. The house Richard and I had bought all those years ago. The house I had almost lost to greed and manipulation. The house that was now truly mine. "This is home," I said out loud. "Yes, it is," Mrs. Peterson agreed. "Yes, it is." That night I made myself dinner and ate at my table. I watched a movie in my living room. I took a bath in my own bathroom. I slept in my own bed. Everything was exactly as it should be. 3 years after David and Monica went to prison, they were released. I got a notification from the court. They were out on probation. The restraining order was still in effect. They could not contact me or come within 500 feet of my property. Part of me wondered if they would try. If they would show up at my door begging for forgiveness. If they would try to manipulate me one more time. They never came. I heard through Mrs. Peterson that they had moved to another state. That they were divorced. That David was working at a car dealership and struggling to make ends meet. I felt nothing when I heard that news. No satisfaction. No anger. No sadness. They had become strangers to me. People I used to know who made bad choices and paid the price. I had moved on. My life now was full in ways I never expected. I traveled twice a year. I volunteered at the shelter every week. I had dinner with friends regularly. I had purpose and joy and peace. Sometimes people ask me if I regretted having David. If I wished I had never been a mother. I always said no. Because loving David had taught me what love was supposed to be. Unconditional, generous, selfless. And his betrayal had taught me what love was not. Manipulative, cruel, transactional. Both lessons were valuable. On what would have been Richard's 70th birthday, I visited his grave. I brought flowers and sat on the bench nearby. "I miss you," I said out loud. "I wish you were here to see how strong I have become. I wish you could have seen me fight back. I wish you could have been proud of me. But I think you would have been. I think you would have understood why I documented everything and made a plan. You always said I had the steadiest hands in an emergency. You were right about that." I sat there for an hour remembering our life together. The good parts. The love and laughter and partnership. Then I stood up and walked back to my car. I had a life to live. People to help. Places to see. Richard would have wanted that for me. And I wanted it for myself. 4 years after that Christmas dinner, I am 69 years old. I am healthy. I am happy. I am free. I own my house outright. I have enough money to live comfortably. I have friends who love me and a community that respects me. I am not a victim anymore. I am a survivor. And I am using my survival to help others survive too. That is my revenge. Not bitterness or anger. Not violence or cruelty. My revenge is living well. My revenge is thriving. My revenge is turning pain into purpose. My revenge is joy. And that is the best revenge of all. Sometimes people ask me what I would say to David if I saw him again. They want to know if I would forgive him. If I would want an apology. If I would give him another chance. I always say the same thing. I would say nothing. 'Cause there is nothing left to say. He made his choices. Made mine. He chose greed. Chose survival. He lost everything. I gained myself. That is enough. Last week a woman named Susan called me. She had gotten my number from the shelter. She was 72 years old and living with her daughter who was financially abusing her. "I do not know what to do," Susan said through her tears. "She is my daughter. I love her. But I am afraid of her. I know exactly how you feel, I said. Let me help you. We talked for 2 hours. I told her about documentation and safety plans. I gave her phone numbers and resources. I told her she was not alone. At the end of the call, she said something that made me cry. You are an angel, Margaret. You saved my life today. I am not an angel, I said. I am just someone who survived and wants to help others survive too. After we hung up, I sat in Richard's chair and looked around my living room. Everything was exactly as it should be. This is my life now. This is who I am. A survivor. An advocate. A woman who refuses to be broken. David and Monica tried to destroy me. They tried to steal my dignity, my assets, and my freedom. But they failed. Because I was stronger than they knew. Because I fought back. Because I refused to be a victim. And now I spend every day proving that survival is not just possible. It is beautiful. That is my story. That is my truth. That is my revenge. I showed up to Christmas dinner with a broken arm and a plan. I walked out with my freedom and my dignity intact. And I have been free ever since. If you are in an abusive situation, please know this. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not too old or too weak to fight back. You are strong. You are capable. You deserve better. Document everything. Make a safety plan. Reach out to people who can help. And when the time is right, walk away. Your life is worth fighting for. Your freedom is worth protecting. Your future is worth believing in. I know because I did it. And if I can do it, so can you. That is my message. That is my hope. That is why I share my story. Because no one should have to suffer in silence. Because no one should have to accept abuse from people who claim to love them. Because no one should have to give up their freedom to make other people comfortable. You deserve better. And you can have better. But you have to fight for it. I did. And it was worth every difficult moment. Every scary decision. Every painful truth. Freedom is worth it. Safety is worth it. Joy is worth it. You are worth it. Remember that. And when you are ready, fight back. I will be here cheering you on. Because we survivors have to stick together. We have to help each other. We have to show the world that abuse does not get the final word. Love does not mean accepting cruelty. Family does not mean giving up your rights. 5 years have passed since that Christmas dinner. 5 years since I opened the door to police officers with my arm broken and my evidence ready. 5 years since I took back my life. In those 5 years, I have helped 47 women escape abusive situations. Some were being hurt by their children. Some by their spouses. Some by caregivers they trusted. All of them thought they were alone. All of them thought they were too old or too weak or too dependent to fight back. I showed them they were wrong. Last month I received a letter from a woman named Dorothy. She was 81 years old. Her son had been stealing her Social Security checks for 3 years. He told her she was too confused to manage money. He told her she should be grateful he was taking care of her. She read an article about me in the newspaper. She called the number at the bottom of the article. She reached out for help. With the help of a social worker and a lawyer, Dorothy got her son arrested. She got her money back. She moved into a senior apartment where she is safe and happy. Her letter said this. Thank you for showing me that it is never too late to save yourself. Thank you for proving that being old does not mean being helpless. Thank you for giving me hope. I keep that letter on my refrigerator next to the card from Rose. Next to pictures of Italy. Next to a photo of Richard smiling on our 40th anniversary. These are my treasures. Not money or possessions. But proof that pain can become purpose. That survival can inspire others. That one person's courage can change lives. That is what I learned from my experience with David and Monica. They tried to break me. Instead they made me stronger. They tried to silence me. Instead they gave me a voice. They tried to steal my future. Instead they showed me what I was capable of. I am capable of surviving. I am capable of fighting back. I am capable of helping others do the same. That is my legacy. Not the house Richard and I built. Not the savings we accumulated. Not the years we spent working. My legacy is the women I have helped. The lives I have changed. The message I carry everywhere I go. You are not alone. You are not helpless. You deserve better. And you can have better if you are brave enough to fight for it. Today I am 69 years old. I wake up every morning in my own bed in my own house. I drink coffee on my front porch. I work in my garden. Call my friends. I plan my next trip. Next month I am going to Scotland. Richard always wanted to see the Highlands. I'm going to see them for both of us. I am also writing a book. The publisher contacted me after they saw me speak at a conference. They want me to tell my story in detail so that other people can learn from it. Said yes, because my story is not just about abuse and survival. It is about reclaiming your power. It is about trusting yourself. It is about refusing to let other people define who you are or what you deserve. Every chapter one write is healing. Every word I put on paper is taking back control. Every story I share is turning my trauma into something meaningful. David and Monica are still out there somewhere, living their lives, dealing with the consequences of their choices. I do not think about them often anymore. When I do, I feel pity more than anger, because they threw away something precious. They threw away love and family and trust for money they never even got. They are the ones who lost, not me. Gained clarity, gained strength, gained purpose. I gained a life that is richer and fuller than I ever imagined it could be. That is the truth David never understood. You cannot steal someone's spirit. You cannot break someone who refuses to stay broken. You cannot destroy someone who knows their own worth. I know my worth now. I know I am valuable not because of what I own but because of who I am. I am a survivor. I am a fighter. I am a woman who refused to disappear quietly. And I am using the rest of my life to make sure other people know they can refuse too. Last week I spoke at a high school. They were learning about elder abuse in their health class. The teacher invited me to share my story with the students. First I was nervous. What would teenagers care about an old woman's problems? But the teacher insisted. She said young people need to understand that abuse affects everyone. That it can happen in families that look perfect from the outside. That victims need support, not judgment. So I went. I stood in front of 30 teenagers and told them about David and Monica. About the manipulation and the violence. About the recordings that saved my life. When I finished, a girl in the front row raised her hand. My grandmother lives with my aunt. My aunt is always yelling at her. She makes her stay in her room most of the day. She tells her she is too much trouble. Is that abuse? Yes, I said gently. That is abuse. And your grandmother needs help. After class, that girl came up to me with tears in her eyes. I did not know what to do. I thought maybe it was normal. That old people are just hard to deal with. It is not normal, I told her. And your grandmother deserves better. Let me give you some phone numbers. Let me help you help her. 2 weeks later that teacher called me. The girl's grandmother had been removed from the aunt's home. She was now living with the girl's family where she was treated with respect and kindness. You changed that woman's life, the teacher said. That girl was too young to know what to do. But you gave her the tools to help. Stories like that are why I keep speaking. Why I keep sharing. Why I refuse to let my experience be wasted. Because abuse thrives in silence. Grows in the dark. Feeds on shame and fear and isolation. But when we speak up, when we share our stories, when we refuse to be silent, abuse loses its power. That is what I learned. That is what I teach. That is what I believe with my whole heart. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Your survival matters. And if you are in an abusive situation right now, please hear this. You can survive. You can escape. You can build a new life. It will not be easy. It will take planning and courage and support. But it is possible. I am living proof. 6 years ago I was a victim. I was being controlled and hurt by my own son. I was broken and scared and alone. Today I am free. I am strong. I am surrounded by people who love and respect me. The woman I was 6 years ago would not recognize the woman I am today. That woman was beaten down by grief and manipulation. She doubted herself. She accepted treatment she did not deserve. This woman knows better. This woman trusts her instincts. This woman refuses to be small or silent or scared. This woman chose joy. And joy chose her back. That is the ending of my story. Not with David and Monica in prison. Not with me broken and bitter. But with me thriving. With me helping others. With me living a life that is full of purpose and meaning and love. That is real revenge. That is real justice. That is real victory. I survived. And I am making sure that survival counts for something. Every woman I help escape abuse is a victory over David and Monica. Every story I share is proof that they did not win. Every day I wake up happy and free is evidence that cruelty does not get the last word. Love gets the last word. Hope gets the last word. Survival gets the last word. And I am going to spend the rest of my life making sure that word is heard loud and clear. You are not alone. You are not helpless. You are not too old or too weak or too dependent to fight back. You are strong. You are valuable. You are worth protecting. Believe that. Fight for that. Live for that. I did. And my life has never been better. That is my story. From victim to survivor to advocate. From broken to healing to thriving. From silence to voice to purpose. This is who I am now. This is what I do. This is why I survived. To help you survive too. To show you that freedom is possible. That joy is possible. That life after abuse is not just possible but beautiful. I am proof. And I am here to tell you that you can be proof too. So if you need help, reach out. If you are scared, speak up. If you are suffering, fight back. Document everything. Make a plan. Find your people. And when the time is right, walk away. Your life is waiting for you. Your freedom is waiting for you. Your joy is waiting for you. Go get it. You deserve it. And when you do, when you are finally free and safe and happy, remember this moment. Remember what it took to get there. Remember how strong you had to be. Then turn around and help the next person. Share your story. Offer your hand. Be the light that guides someone else out of the darkness. That is how we heal. That is how we win. That is how we make sure abuse does not destroy us. We survive. We thrive. We help others do the same. That is my mission. That is my purpose. That is my revenge. And it is the sweetest revenge of all. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for caring about survivors. Thank you for being part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Together we can end elder abuse. Together we can protect vulnerable people. Together we can make sure no one has to suffer the way I did. But it starts with one voice. One story. One person brave enough to say this is not okay and I deserve better. Be that person. For yourself or for someone you love. Be brave. Be strong. Be free. Believe in you. 'Cause I know what you are capable of. I know because I was capable of it too. And if an ordinary 65-year-old widow can outsmart her abusers, document everything, and escape to build a beautiful new life, then you can too. You absolutely can. So go do it. Take back your power. Take back your life. Take back your joy. And when you do, send me a message. Tell me your story. Let me celebrate your freedom with you. Because every survivor who escapes is a victory for all of us. Every person who fights back weakens the power of abuse. Every voice that speaks up makes it easier for the next person to speak. We are in this together. We are stronger together. We will win together. One survivor at a time. One story at a time. One victory at a time. This is my promise to you. This is my commitment. This is why I wake up every morning and choose to keep fighting. Not just for me, but for you. For all of us. We deserve better. And we are going to get it. That is my final word. That is my truth. That is my hope. Survive. Thrive. Help others do the same. That is how we win. And we will win. Promise you that. We will win.